On February 19th, this year, of course, the first full official trailer for Toy Story 5 was released. And not to spoil too much, but basically the premise of the movie is centered around how technology and access to it affects children. You know, basically the premise is that, hey, here are these like iconic toys that you can make stories with, you can play with. But hey kid, here's an iPad that has an access to internet, Roblox, YouTube, so on and so forth. I'm mentioning this not just because I'm also like very excited to go and see the movie when it eventually comes out, but also because the trailer inspired a lot of people to reflect a bit on how the world looks like now and how it used to look like, specifically through the lens of childhood. There are a lot of elements that you can talk about when it comes to how childhood used to look like 15 years ago when compared to now. You can talk about toys, the books, the types of parenting, forms of playing, etc., etc. But what I want to focus on are the screens and what plays on them. Henceforth, I brought up the Toy Story 5 trailer. The screens were a main conversation there. The screens are gonna remain a topic of conversations here, just slightly differently. Today, I wanted to talk about animated kids shows, kids cartoons, if you will, specifically shows targeted at kids from ages 6 to 12, how their quality has changed over the years and how that has affected the younger generation now. Also, what that can tell us about where we're heading as a society. What are the kids missing out on now? Are they missing out on anything? Are the older generations perhaps looking at things through nostalgia-colored glasses? Well, let's discuss. Hello, my name is Freyr. I'm your favorite local forest gremlin and a Polish sociology student, and I want to welcome you to my little corner of the internet where I discuss all forms of popular media that interest me, whether that's books, TV shows, films, cartoons, or music. We do it all here. And today, I am bringing you a video that I have been working on for months, actually. The first idea for this video was born around like November of last year in my head, but I couldn't quite figure out how I wanted to present it and what elements I wanted to include. And that vision has sort of been coming back to me in different times of both the past year and this year. And I was finally able to sit down and combine my thoughts and channel them into a script, into some notes for this video. And I hope it's enjoyable for you to watch. This video is honestly just an excuse for me to just like fully nerd out in especially one of the later sections of this video, which I'm so excited to do. Like I'm gonna show you guys just how fucking cultured I am, okay? Also, I don't know if you can hear it. My cold hasn't completely passed yet. I've been sick for the past like 2 weeks at this point. It's not good. Whenever I get sick, I'm like out of it for months actually. But this is the first day that I was like actually able to speak because I did also lose my voice for like 3 days straight. So yeah, if you hear it a bit, please just like ignore it, or I don't know. I hope that the video is like watchable and listenable. But yeah, just like disclaimer, I guess. But before I actually tell you what we're gonna talk about today in greater detail, I would like to quickly encourage you to please subscribe to my YouTube channel. My goal for the year is to reach 10,000 subscribers. I'm pretty far from that right now, but I'm sure that you can do it. And most of you watching are not subscribed, which is pretty rude. Nah, just kidding. But if you can, please like the video. Please comment down below your thoughts, your childhood shows that you remember fondly. You can hype the video. That also apparently helps. You can follow me on all of my other socials as well, which include Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Letterboxd, and a plethora of others. Now I'm gonna present you what we're gonna be doing today. First, I'm gonna be talking about why these shows specifically used to be so great, what they gave to us when we watched them as kids. Then I'll talk about perhaps what changed and what led to the quality of these shows going down. Then the third section of this video, that's the one that I'm most excited for because I will be talking about my favorite shows that I remember from my childhood. I remember them from back when I was a kid, but I kind of still watch some of them because they aged phenomenally for the most part. That section will be mostly like for funsies, but I think it will help to demonstrate some of my points from the earlier sections of this video. And finally, the last and probably shortest section will be about some of the better kids shows that I would consider to be more modern and that were made, you know, somewhat recently, that are either airing now or were airing pretty recently or are still going. And also, before I even start yapping, if you want a solo full-length video made about any of the shows that I'm gonna be name dropping in this video, comment down below. Actually, that just like, please tell me to do that. Please give me the courage to do that because I am dying to make these videos. Honestly, I might still do those videos regardless of if anyone even comments on this video or not. But if you could show some support to that specific idea, you know, I'd be grateful. And with that pretty long intro out of the way, let's talk about why these kids shows used to be so good, what they gave to us, and why are they so fondly remembered.
If I'd known you'd be here, I would have reviewed Chapter 8, Fungus Removal Spell.
I feel like a lot of the things that I'm going to be saying in this video are going to be coming off as like back in my day type of statements, but truly, these cartoons used to have so much potential, and it was clear that so much passion, love, and work went into them. And that's part of the reason why they are so fondly remembered by so many of us. Part of it is nostalgia. Yes, definitely. Looking back at some of these shows, maybe they didn't age the best, but it's clear that their overall quality was just so much better. The stories presented in these cartoons were more original than the ones that we're seeing now, but also they would oftentimes take stuff that on paper you wouldn't ever really put in a kids show, but they somehow managed to make it palatable for a younger audience. For instance, off the top of my head, let's say like some of the character backstories in Hunting, Seekers and Secrets, or the story of like a literal nation destruction in Winx Club. A lot of these things I don't think we would like pick up on when we were kids, but those are the things that make these shows even more incredible, especially when you revisit them at, you know, an older age. It's the thought of this was great when I watched it years ago, but now that I understand it more, it's even better. It's even more meaningful. But even when we weren't like completely aware, these cartoons would be one of those forms of media that would help us form a moral compass, or just in general learn about different morals. A lot of these plots and characters became somewhat of an example of how to do things right. That's why they've been repurposed so much, and we see the same things over and over again. If it worked the last time, why not this time? Too bad, in most cases, you cannot outdo the doer. The mastery of storytelling presented in shows like Avatar: The Last Airbender, earlier seasons of Winx Club, or even like something like Kaijudo is genuinely so impressive. Why I also value them so much now is because clearly animation is in a tough period. With the dangers of AI, underpaying animators, but also the shift towards live action shows, it's now harder to find well animated things to watch, just in general, not even like kids shows. There are of course some that have come out pretty recently that are incredible, like for example She-Ra, or when it comes to like films, I would say Nimona or the Spider-Verse movies, but they are very rare. Meanwhile, back in the day, we had it good with animated media. The environments of something like Gormiti, the look and style of Code Lyoko, the character designs in something like Hunting or Witch, just to name a few. Animation is such a beautiful art form, and I kind of miss the times when, at least on the surface, it seemed to be more valued. Of course, it always had its problems with underpaying animators, but those problems only have grown with time, and or even worse now than they used to be. The world kind of sucks now, doesn't it? All these aspects I just named are of course important. The show has to have good quality and be enjoyable. However, I'd argue the most important things about these shows is what they did for many of us as kids. I still remember how on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays, I would go back home from school, do my homework or do some other stuff, play, I don't know. And then after dinner around 5 p.m., that's when I would sit in front of my TV, turn on like Teletoon Plus or Nickelodeon and watch these shows, and then I would go to school the next day and I would debrief with my classmates. We talked about what we thought of the episodes, we talked about what we thought was cool about them, and then we would oftentimes play pretend inspired by these cartoons, the standard kid thing to do. These cartoons were natural icebreakers. It was very easy, and at least from my experience, to find community thanks to them. It was kind of a bonding experience, come to think of it. So yeah, these shows oftentimes brought not just entertainment, but also possible childhood friendships. And listen, not to go there, but I kind of feel like me enjoying these cartoons and being able to talk about them with my fellow classmates was one of the reasons why I didn't really have a tough time in primary school whatsoever. Looking back, I was clearly different from the other kids, which I'm sure you can imagine what I mean by that.
Oh, what you said? Queen.
This common language helped me find a place there, and other kids in class generally liked me, even when they acknowledged that there was a difference. Most of them would be drawing soldiers and playing football. Meanwhile, I was drawing fairies, playing pretend with a few gal pals of mine, and I sucked at football. still do actually. But I never felt singled out because there were these common cultural things that united us as kids, which in my case, I think helped me a lot. This is obviously an observation that comes from like personal experience, and I know many other people didn't have it that easy in school whatsoever, and that is obviously horrible, and I wouldn't wish that upon anyone. I'm not saying this as a common truth, but more so something that I observed looking back at my younger years. One thing that I also want to add here is I also really appreciate how these cartoons would get my imagination and creativity going. For example, I remember designing my own Pokemon after being obsessed with the Pokemon series, specifically Pokemon Black and White, X and Y, and also the Alola one. That one I also really loved. I had the time of my life coming up with some twisted mysteries that would fit into the world of like Gravity Falls. Same stuff with like Martin Mystery or Code Lyoko. If I had to name one trait of mine that I would say I'm like the most proud of, I would say it's my creativity. And I think part of it is because since I can remember, I was surrounded from all sides with different kinds of media that would like prompt me to think for myself and create my own stories. That's part of the reason why I probably still love stuff like role-playing or fanfiction now. And also, there is an educational side to these cartoons as well. Shows like, for example, Huntic and also the different Once Upon a Time series were some of the reasons why, as a kid, I loved history and mythology so much, especially the latter. I would also read so much about it. To the point that I would be like the kid at like family gatherings, just like spewing random mythological facts about like the ancient Greeks or something. I'm not saying that all of these cartoons were educational. Don't get me wrong. Some of them clearly weren't, but in places they would be. But also, I don't think there's anything wrong with a show that's just there to entertain and not necessarily to teach, like especially if it has good quality. And these shows typically had good quality. This like special magic around these cartoons, I would specifically attribute to the format that we watched them in as kids. Most of us had TV or a DVD player, especially TV. I think that was the most common, as I think at least that's what I remember from my childhood. I think everybody kind of in my class had a TV. And with TV, obviously, you can't watch a show whenever you want. They're aired at specific hours, typically 2 episodes at a time, and missing that was a travesty for 9-year-old me.
Send it to me, Rachel.
It was literally seen in Ohio.
Please send it.
But I think it also made something so much more special. It was a thing that I was doing weekly and it felt celebratory. Also, I don't know about you, but for me, I would only watch these cartoons if I was like on my best behavior and I genuinely cared about that. It was a thing I was looking forward to every week. What will happen in the new episode of Huntic? What sort of shit is Zana gonna be pulling in the new episode of Code Lyoko? This is something that certain shows kind of try to emulate now and sometimes succeed. I would say a good example of this is actually the Percy Jackson show, because these episodes every season drop weekly, and as a result, the Percy Jackson fever stays around longer. The public, in this case, doesn't just forget about the show a week after a new season has aired. I think it's honestly a great strategy, and I would take that any day over a season dropping in like 2 parts or just in full. I want to live in the world that the show is presenting to me, and I want to spend some time in it. And I think it's just easier when you have this sort of like release schedule format. That's partially why I think these cartoons had such an impact on, for example, my childhood. Also, this might sound a bit stupid, but I think we saw much more dedication to actually telling stories and committing to them. This is something that I notice a lot now, is these studios and companies producing shows give up on them very quickly. A show can get cancelled within its first week of airing. That was not the case back when I was a kid. Yes, these shows would oftentimes not get picked up for like next seasons, but these companies would at least give them time, sometimes give them new episodes, continue them a bit until they would decide to focus on other projects instead. It felt like most shows were given a chance at having a moment and gaining an audience. I think this is a very like simplistic take. I do realize that, but that's just kind of how I feel, especially looking back at some of these shows that I'm going to mention in the upcoming sections. There are a few instances of a cartoon series only having 1 season, and I don't think there's any that I will mention that had less than 20 episodes per season. Meanwhile, most shows nowadays don't cross 20 episodes. Animated or not, they just don't. And also, I'm tired of that. Where are the CW shows that would have like 20 episodes per season with like 40 minutes for each episode? Like, can we bring back like the Vampire Diaries style of making a show? Like, can we do that? I'm tired of the Stranger Things format. I'm tired of the Bridgerton format. Give me a break.
No. I said no. You can kill all that right now. Like at this moment, stop.
So yeah, the airing format, the quality of the show, the community, and the different interests they would offer us are some of the things that I would attribute to why these cartoons were so good and why, for the most part, they also aged pretty well and why many of us look at them so fondly. But is that going to be the case for this newer generation? What about Gen Alpha? What do they have? And is it any good at all? Well... Before I start this section, obviously a lot of these points are going to be biased because I'm not a child anymore. I'm 21. I'm talking about this mostly as observations that I've made regarding my younger sister and also her classmates. But also these are observations based on like siblings of like a couple of my friends, for example, and how they behave, or like kids that are shown online with some of their behavior, and also the overall media critique that I have been seeing towards a lot of these new shows. I think the first thing we obviously have to mention here is streaming services. We now have access to streaming services. Practically every household, I think, has them now. Therefore, we have a choice of what we want to watch, and we're not forced to watch anything. The situation of, hey, this is a specific show that's airing at this and this time, and this is the only place you can watch it. That situation no longer exists. And because that was the case back then, you would give these shows a chance by default. You could switch channels, but oftentimes, you know, as a kid, you would just like see a show, see a cartoon and be like, okay, whatever, I'm just gonna watch it. And it would be very engaging. You would give it a chance by default. And who knows, you would probably like it. Sometimes the best cartoons you just stumble upon. Now it's totally up to us, and that kind of limits the potential of, you know, possible discovery of these like hidden pearls, hidden gems, because they just sit in those like streaming services databases waiting for somebody to watch them. But for you to watch them, the algorithm has to point you towards that specific show. This format of airing is kind of a lost form now, but more in that binging culture has taken over, and that also includes the younger audiences. They watch episodes in bulk and then finish a show and just move on. They no longer live in the world of these cartoons the same way that we used to. Waiting for weekly episodes was twice as engaging, and it made us appreciate these episodes even more. And more to the thing that I brought up a few minutes ago with like the algorithms of stuff, now they suggest us different shows or films for us that will not be suggested for others. You know, they base it on what we like, what we watch, but that's not going to be the case for everybody. Thus, it's less likely that, for example, in a class of 20 kids, 10 kids have seen that show. It's no longer a thing for kids to bond over. It's moved more towards like games or other stuff, and occasionally shows and films. I think the best example of that in recent memory is, of course, K-pop Demon Hunters. And also, because it's harder to choose a show for yourself, these kids oftentimes resort to watching the same thing over and over again. Again, K-pop Demon Hunters, that's the premier offender of that. My sister and her friends have a full-on competition with each other that was like centered around who has seen that movie the most. And one of them, if that wasn't a lie, because it's very possible that that little girl could have just lied, one of them recently said that she has crossed the number 60. Granted, I don't know if she can count to 60 yet, because, you know, that's a little child, but even just the thought of that is terrifying to me. Meanwhile, we as kids oftentimes would rewatch stuff. Yes, that was obviously the case, especially if you had a DVD player, but I don't think it was ever to this extent. Aside from that, our attention spans just in general have fallen. YouTube videos have gotten shorter. Well, not mine, clearly. Shows have less episodes. People struggle to watch films without scrolling on their phone at the same time. This process is starting with the youngest of us now as well. Different forms of media that correspond better to the shortening attention spans are starting to dominate, especially YouTube Shorts and TikTok, which most kids now have access to. And the overall access to technology has to be mentioned here as well. I don't know about you, but I had my first phone when I was 11, and it wasn't a smartphone. It was one of those like button phones that I was given solely because I would like stay longer at school some days, and I would have, you know, I would have to somehow communicate with my parents in case there was like an emergency or something. That was literally the only purpose of it. Apparently around 58% of kids around age before possess an iPad or a tablet of some form. That was not the case when I was younger. And let's be honest, interactive screens where you can swipe videos or play games are much more fun for kids than a TV with a show playing because it's less interactive. I saw a reel earlier today. I don't know if I saved it, but it kind of like blew my mind. It was basically this girl sitting in her car and she said that, when was the last time that you heard a kid at like a family gathering or some event ask you whether you have games on your phone? And I was like, shit, she's so correct, because like that question kind of doesn't exist anymore. That used to be a joke. And that's not a thing anymore because most kids have phones or tablets or like smartwatches or something. And they're just gonna sit there and play with it. And they're not gonna bother you anymore about games on your phone. That kind of blew my mind, actually. We are a screen society, and by that I mean we see reality through the lens of our screens. They give us information, help us feel emotions, and cultivate relationships, and that has been the case for a long time. They're very important, and that was the case for my generation, that's the case for this new generation, but also for the generations that came before us. Just with the difference in screens, what they were and what they could do. But what really matters is what they're telling us. And those kinds of like messages, lessons, and even forms of pure entertainment are plummeting in quality at an extreme speed. It honestly makes me sad to see how little some of these companies and studios that finance these cartoons and make them actually care about their end product. I think the best example of that is the Winx reboot, which, I mean, that is just offensive. That entire reboot can be summed up by few words: lazy, stupid, ugly, and also poor execution of nostalgia baiting. That is actually another point that I wanted to make here. It seems like sometimes these newer cartoons aren't really targeted at kids anymore, or at least they aren't fully targeted at kids. This Winx Club reboot, I believe, was described as a show that was meant to unite the older fans of the franchise with the kids that would get to grow up with it now. Well, I don't know if that was successful. Nostalgia bait definitely sells because some older fans are definitely gonna fall for it and are gonna watch some episodes. But ultimately, I think most will stop very quickly because they will just realize that this is slop, especially compared to the original. And as for the kids, they are not receiving anything remotely comparable to the older seasons of Winx Club. So in the end, you're half-assing attempts of pandering to both demographics that you could potentially reach and that could be potentially interested in your show. It seems that a lot of these executives struggle to find new ideas for their cartoons for kids, so they resort to bringing back something that once worked, like for example Winx Club, or they just don't bother anymore. And I mean, bringing it back is honestly very, very easy because it's an idea that once worked on an entire generation of kids actually. And this new generation of kids probably doesn't realize that this show is a remake, so they might watch it and they might actually enjoy it. The state of kids media now is dire. I see it everywhere, mostly through my sister and her friends. Streaming services are full of these stupid cartoons that are just horrible when it comes to their storytelling. And I mean, listen, they could potentially be fitting for like kids ages like 1 to 4. But not 5 to 12. It feels like a lot of the times these creators forget that kids also deserve quality storytelling. Yes, they might understand less of it, but that doesn't mean that they shouldn't have it. And also, it becomes very apparent to me that the different age categories of kids are oftentimes overlooked too. Some older kids might get the story that you're wanting to present. They don't need to be treated like 3-year-olds. But the biggest problem, definitely in my opinion, is the lack of original stories and the lack of commitment to realizing them. This is seen everywhere. A large bit of the biggest, most highly financed films for kids now are remakes, and the more original ones tend to be neglected by these companies. A lot of the shows and also films that we get now are adaptations of books, games, or remakes of previous shows or films. Why do we need another Harry Potter remake? Like, who's gonna watch that? Because like, why do we need another Harry Potter show when we have the movies? I mean, it's not like I watch them because fuck J.K. Rowling, but also, why? Just show your kid the movie. Why is Wuthering Heights getting a new remake? Why?
I don't know. I really don't. I don't know. I hate when I get asked questions because I really don't know.
Although that last one probably isn't the best example considering that it's like very, very far off from kids media, but you get the point. But the lack of new original stories is genuinely sad to see. No one wants to make original stories these days. Where is this newer generation's Avatar: The Last Airbender or Gravity Falls? Where is it? The answer is simple. It doesn't exist. Man, this section is just full of complaining, isn't it? Well, I'm gonna add to the back in my day vibe of this video by moving on to the next section. I want to talk a little bit more about the shows that I personally grew up with, maybe recommend a few, and just in general talked about why I liked them back then and why I might also enjoy them now too. And who knows, maybe potentially in the future open up some doors to make separate full-length videos just about these shows. Who knows? Anything can happen. Please comment down below.
Please. Then, everything changed when the Fire Nation attacked.
At first, I'm gonna present you with 6 different cartoons that I personally loved the most as a kid. I'm gonna talk about them in slightly more detail, although I'm gonna reserve from like making too much criticism about them because I don't really have the time. It's gonna be like a very short description of how I feel about them. But hey, if you want a full-length video, you know what to do. I'm also gonna talk about why I think they aged well, or maybe if they didn't. Spoiler alert, most of them did though. And then at the end of the section, there's gonna be an honorable mention list with way quicker descriptions for other shows that I could remember like off the top of my head when I was writing this video. We're gonna be starting with some of the more known ones, some of the most recognizable ones, and then we're gonna move on to like the more obscure picks that I'm kind of sure most of you kind of don't remember. We are, of course, going to be starting with Avatar: The Last Airbender. That intro itself is just like it doesn't get better than this. I think this is a no-brainer when it comes to starting off this section. This is probably the best show I'm gonna mention in this video, period. I don't think many could argue with that. I think this is just like an objective truth. This show is just phenomenal. But in case you've been living under a rock, Avatar: The Last Airbender follows the story of Aang, a young avatar who can command all 4 elements: fire, water, air, and earth, as he fights against the Fire Nation that is conquering the world. He of course does it with the help of the gang, made up of Katara, Sokka, and also Toph. This show is a classic for a reason. The story of it and how you watch these characters grow is just so special. Every episode is just incredible, and the art style of it, it's just the best. The best. Like it just doesn't get better than this. This show is not just epic with its storytelling, it's also epic with its visual presentation. It's so compelling, and most importantly, it has heart. It never feels like a product to me. It's just a fucking incredible story, which cannot be said about many shows, regardless of whether they were made like 10 years ago or now. This is the level of heart that you just kind of don't see in media anymore, or at least it's very rare to see it. This show contains some of my favorite episodes of television ever. I mean, actually, I would say that the Tales of Ba Sing Se episode is my favorite episode ever of anything, actually. It gets me every time. I could just cry thinking about it, actually. That scene with Uncle, oh my God. No, we're not doing that today. No. Oh, no. Iroh is one of the best characters ever made, truly. But then also you have like other characters like Zuko and Azula, who I love. I also adore every member of the gang. Appa is the cutest and I want a plush of him. I love Ty Lee as well. Every member of this cast of characters is so good and I adore them, with a few exceptions. But you know, I adore Avatar so much. Few shows have ever made such an impact on me. It made me cry. It made me laugh. It made me rethink my own existence. And most importantly, it provided a story that stays with a person. You don't just forget it. It affects you emotionally. It affects you like biologically. I feel like my brain chemistry forever changed because I saw this show. I think because of how popular the show is, some people might think of comments like the ones that I just made as a bit too much, you know, a bit of exaggeration of how good it really is. But I genuinely will stand 10 toes behind this take. 10 toes down on the... What's the saying? I don't know. I don't know. This show is one of the greatest things to ever come out, period. One of the greatest things we've ever achieved as humanity. It's legendary for a reason. And this next show is also legendary, although I would argue that parts of it didn't really age that well. But I think when you hear what the show actually is, you will understand why. I mean, obviously Winx Club is iconic. Like, yeah, duh. Unless you forget about the existence of season 7 and up. Because what the hell was that?
That's what she said. And you know what? What was that?
This is one of those shows that is harder to compare to others because of the amount of spin-offs and seasons it has received. For this video specifically, I want to focus on seasons 1 through 6 because these are the ones that I remember watching when I was younger. Also, I mean, somewhat season 7, I do also remember watching that when I was younger, but I don't want to remember of its existence. Or season 8, because like, what the fuck was that?
Who the hell is this bitch?
I mean, listen, even as a kid, I was watching season 7 being like, this is some bullshit. Like, what do you mean you're like now saving animals and your powers are practically useless and all these villains are just so underwhelming? I did not like season 7 whatsoever. As for the other like spin-offs and other things that have happened with the Winx franchise, I would say World of Winx was low-key pretty good. I actually kind of remember it pretty well. I didn't watch it as a kid. I was like 14 when I first watched it, and I honestly kind of really liked it. I also just saw a really, really good video made about it by the Unicorn of War. So go and watch that video. It's really, really good. And I think it explains everything that's actually good about World of Winx, but also some of the problems that it has. And then, of course, there was another spin-off, which was called Fate the Winx Saga, which was a live-action remake that was kind of like this attempt at like, I don't even know what that was. Girl, Netflix. Just Netflix. But Winx used to be a highly respected, popular, ever-present franchise. Seasons 1 through 3 are some of the best seasons of an animated show. Period. The first few seasons of Winx Club center around Bloom, a regular girl from Earth who finds out that she is a fairy and goes to a fairy school named Althea, where she meets Flora, Musa, Stella, and Tecna, and also later down the line, Aisha. They form the Winx Club together and then battle different big bads, have magical adventures, and pursue magical education. This show is iconic for so many reasons. The animation, the characters and their personalities, the banter and the storytelling, the fairy forms, the villains. I mean, Valtor, hello. That is an iconic villain. I feel like everybody has heard of Valtor. The first 3 seasons are so good. It's a complete plot with incredible character development. You get so attached to these girls and it's so beautiful to watch them like bonding together and facing bigger and bigger challenges. The stakes are raised each season appropriately and it never feels stale. It also has some of the best character writing and just like fun dialogue you'll ever hear in a show. Like, I'm sorry, there's that one line that Stella says during one of the lessons with like Griselda that has like been run down so much because it's so iconic.
Dodge the attack.
Good thing she told us, otherwise I would have just stood there till I'd finally get hit.
But there are also some other lines. Like, I'm probably just gonna like include a montage of some of my favorites if this video does not like get copyright restricted because of that. Genuinely do yourself a favor and just go and watch this show just for the dialogue itself.
Electric booty kick! Oh, boo-hoo-hoo! Those who try to destroy the world should never whine about a little eternal sentence.
After season 3 though, it gets a bit wonky. Season 4 is fine. It has some incredible ideas in my opinion, especially with like Roxy and bringing magic to Earth. Hell, I even like the Fairy Hunters. Season 5 is cool in places. It has incredible transformation songs. Let's not be mistaken. Those are transformation songs. It was also the first season to experiment with the 3D animation and it does not look very good. I will always prefer 2D over 3D. I'm sorry. I like to have at least a semblance of it being drawn by a person. And I feel like because of the rise of AI, whenever I see something that looks like this, I immediately like it just... I'd rather that to just not be in my stratosphere. Like maybe let's not do that. And I mean the reboot of Winx Club isn't helping because girl, what the fuck?
How dare you, Mr. Spears? You had me fooled. And you too, Mrs. Spears. Death to all of them.
And also season 5 is where the gimmicky nature of Winx Club seasons really materializes. Every season has to have a new gimmick. It no longer feels like a continuous story because they stop growing, they stop evolving, start losing their personalities. They start feeling like carbon copies of each other with just like different colored outfits and different voice actors. That's literally the difference between them. Season 6 has a fun concept of like the legendary, in which, as you might assume, I actually do like the idea, but the execution of it is a bit crazy. I don't think it's really that good. I would say it's the last watchable season though, because season 7 and 8 are utter trash and I hate them. But if you ever want to go on a continuous, fun, compelling, and also emotional and magical adventure, I think the first few seasons of Winx Club are an obvious choice. It's so good. It aged phenomenally. It has so much character and it's not afraid to take risks. And also, I think we have to mention what this show did for a generation of girls, but also queer kids. I remember watching that and feeling so empowered by it, even though like technically there's no queer representation in the show. I was like, wait, but this is for me though. Like this show shaped childhoods, entire childhoods of entire generations actually. Millions of kids watched it and felt inspired by it. And I think it's so beautiful. Like the effect Winx Club had on children all together around the globe needs to be studied. And I will stand by the fact that seasons 1 through 3 are lightning in a bottle. It's hard to replicate this level of perfection. This next show though came close to it. This is another show done by Rainbow, just like Winx, but this one definitely doesn't ring a bell for most of you watching. Damn, a lot of my childhood was formed by Rainbow shows, come to think of it. But anyway, here is Huntic, Secrets and Secrets. I think Huntic might be the best show I watched as a kid, and I will stand by that. Even though obviously that's like a biased opinion, I just really, really loved it when I was younger. And I kind of still love it too now, but too bad no one seems to remember of its existence. No one watched it, or at least it seems so, because the fandom is like actually dead. I see no people talking about it, and I've seen no talk of it in ages. This show is so cool to me. It's like literally everything I love combined into this like cool animated adventure. The premise of it is basically that we have this other dimension where there are these creatures that live in it. They are called Titans, and they are spirit beings that have a lot to do with like our history and myths, and are closely related to like a lot of artifacts and also archaeological sites, histories, lost secrets, basically. They can be summoned through amulets by people called Seekers. These Seekers are folks that search for these secrets, protect history, and try to preserve it. Of course, there are folks that do the opposite and who want to use this power for, you know, their own gain, you know, the standard villain stuff. Locke is our main hero, and he is your typical teenager with a missing father and also some mysteries that he wants to really solve. He randomly stumbles into this world of mystery and magic, and on with the plot we go. This show is genuinely so cool. The concepts it introduces, the magic and summoning mechanics, that combined with the style of animation and the design of the Titans, is just a perfect package. It looks beautiful and still definitely holds up today. It also offers some really interesting plots and fun banter.
Why would I be jealous of someone who puts on a makeup with a paint roller?
The world building in it is genuinely so strong. The show is so entertaining, and it only gets more entertaining the more that we go. What I really, really adore about Huntic specifically is the history and the mythology and the fresh takes that it offers on those things. Are they always like that accurate? No. This show definitely takes some liberties to make the stories better or to fit, you know, whatever they're trying to present. But honestly, I don't really mind that. I think the characters are so cool. I like pretty much all of them. Although, I gotta say, Zalia is that bitch. Although some of these characters, specifically on like the villain side, tend to be a little one note. Like, I would say there are some good villains. There are also some that are just like there. Like, for example, the Professor is a fun one. He's really, really fun to watch. And he's also like very threatening too. And he doesn't really feel that one note. He actually like has a story to tell. But then you have like Razimov. It's like, Okay. The storytelling in the show, though, it's so good. Season 1, I would say it's pretty much perfect. Like, I don't think you can really get better story-wise. I would say the finale of it is a little but like overall it's really, really good. Season 2, I would say, like, in general, it's stronger plot-wise because it actually has way more like stakes at hand. Season 1 is kind of a lot of like dilly-dallying and just kind of like going on random side quests, which I also love in the context of Huntic. But season 2 is where like you actually get like a full plot that we commit to every episode, and it's way stronger in the sense of like that story. But the finale of it is also kind of not that good. Some choices were definitely made. I feel like the writers of it suddenly forgot about like the power balancing of these characters, because the shit they pulled specifically in season 2, like Locke gets a little bit of the main character treatment in some of these episodes, especially like episode 1 of season 2 for Locke is crazy. Just like go and watch that after watching season 1 and you're gonna be like, what the fuck is going on? And when it comes to the finale of season 2 too, I mean, I think the best example of just like the poor power balancing of the characters is Dante, because Miss Girl, he's over there doing God shit. Like he's over there just like playing God actually, and no one really bats an eye. Genuinely, no, I'm not trying to spoil anything. If you watch the season 2 finale, what Dante does in it is kind of crazy. But even if I don't necessarily like the way that it ends, I think it's still 2 seasons, 52 episodes that are kind of perfect. Like they all kind of slap. I like that the plot of the show is like always relevant. It's always in the background, but especially in season 1, it doesn't feel, or I guess it's not treated as like a checklist that we have to go through, but more as a thing in the back of our mind that comes back when it's needed. It's way more effective that way. We get entire episodes dedicated to finding a titan or an artifact, and these episodes don't really build anything like plot-wise, but it's just a cool adventure. What I'm trying to say, I guess, is that this show has a great balance of filler episodes and plot episodes, plus it doesn't feel repetitive. The way every adventure is structured is different, and it takes different amount of time, to the point that sometimes we get like multiple episodes per mission, and sometimes a mission is done in just one. The show flows so well and it never gets boring. There's always something fun to enjoy. It's not something that you can just like put on in the background to play while you like do dishes or something. One thing that none of you will be able to argue with is that this intro, killer intro, genuinely, these guitar riffs fuck me up. I need that on Spotify. There's like a cover of it on Spotify. It's not that good. Sorry to the person who made it, but like, listen, it's just perfect. Although some of the lyrics are a bit nonsense, but like most of the intros to like cartoon animated shows, I guess, are kind of nonsense. And also, I'm a Eurovision fan in retirement, but still, I'm kind of used to nonsense lyrics at that point. Come to think of it, my childhood was just fully made up of shows that were done by either Moonscope or Rainbow, and that second one, I mean, at the time it was like a good thing, but now not so much. Especially considering like the Wings reboot and some of the recent comments made by Eugenius Straffi regarding AI, and also the woke agenda. Girl.
I am Jasmine Masters, and I have something to say. RuPaul's Drag Race has fucked up drag. Bottom line, cutting drag.
I am sick. I am sick of your shit.
Imagine making a franchise that celebrated just like the girlhood and like femininity, and that opened the doors for so many queer people as well. And then 10 years later, or like 20 years later, actually, I don't know how old Wings is, making comments like the girl. Overall though, back to Huntic, I think the concept of it is probably my favorite part. In other areas it can be a little messy, but it's still a very enjoyable watch, and I would actually really recommend you go and check it out. The thing is though, as I mentioned before, this fandom is like actually dead. It's non-existent. I have not seen anyone talk about this show for years, and it's almost like to the point that I feel like I'm almost like hallucinating it. Like, did it actually happen or not? But hey, if you want a full-length video about it, you know what to do. And also, this is probably the #1 place on the list of possible video receivers. Like, I want to talk about this show in full. Now we're gonna go to one that I still think is more recognizable than Huntic, partially for the animation style and for the way that just in general it looks, but also I feel like it's just more remembered by people, and I think it was also more successful than Huntic when it was airing, considering that it did actually like receive some follow-up stuff. Was the follow-up stuff good though? Not necessarily, but let's just talk about Code Lyoko. I think going into this video, this show was probably the one that I remembered the most, despite the fact that I haven't seen it for years. Mostly because of the fact that this is one of those shows that kind of doesn't follow a plot. I mean, it does, but it's very secondary, especially in season 1, less so in season 2. That means that basically there's less twists and turns to remember because every episode actually kind of plays out the same. Code Lyoko is about this virtual world run by this supercomputer hidden in an abandoned factory. Jeremy, our like main nerd of the pack, discovers this computer and turns it on, and turns out there is a girl inside of this computer. Her name is Alita. Jeremy decides to make it his mission to bring Alita into the real world. However, there is something else in this computer. It's an evil program named Zana that just kind of wants to destroy everything. This show is truly ahead of its time when it comes to like the anti-AI messaging of it. Maybe it's one of the reasons why I personally hate AI so much now, actually, because I was primed to be a hater of it from very, very young age. Anyways, Jeremy and his friends must stop Zana from basically killing everybody, but they also want to bring Alita back, so they become warriors of Lyoko. And each episode they go into this virtual world where they have like cool powers and confusing designs, and they help Alita in need. This show is honestly a very fun thing to watch, even if it doesn't necessarily follow a plot. It's not very that plot heavy, but the episodes are still fun, even though they do also tend to like blend in together, as they are a bit formulaic, especially at first. But the premise of the show is cool enough that it doesn't really get that boring. The characters are fun, even though they tend to sometimes be very annoying, like Chrissy, who is the biggest brat you've ever seen, derogatory. Yumi is a girl boss, even though they don't really do much with her, which is kind of a wasted opportunity. Odd is just an agent of chaos and also probably the most queer-coded character of the bunch. Ulrich is this like nonchalant guy that every girl kind of wants, but he's too like mysterious for them. And then Jeremy, as I previously mentioned, is like the head nerd. They don't really get much development character-wise, but they do work together so well. It's like a very fun group dynamic. The thing about Code Lyoko that unfortunately does tarnish my memory of it is the fact that this did receive a live-action remake. This had, I think the remake had one season, which it was not good. Ew. Like, even as a kid, I was watching that and being like, this is bullshit. I still see that remake in my nightmares because like, what the fuck? Controversially enough, I actually think that the 3D stuff looks better in the live action remake. It's just like way more clean, but I think it's also like the thing of like the times, like they couldn't just like make it better, or I don't know. I don't know, but the 3D stuff looks better in the live action, but the live action is still trash compared to the original. Like, yeah, the animation in the original is wonky in places, but like, I forgive it because it's like charming. It's like a thing of the times almost. Also, the show has probably my favorite, like second favorite intro song in this video, first of course being Huntic, but this is a very, very close second, and I actually do have it saved on Spotify. I sometimes do listen to it. It's really, really good. It's a banger. The next show is actually quite similar to Code Lyoko in the sense that it's also based on episodic plots, but even more than Code Lyoko. And this one, I'm even more convinced that no one remembers, other than me, of course. Tara Duncan was a show I loved as a kid. I watched it so much to the point that I don't think I fully even realized how few episodes of it there truly is. This show had 26 episodes, and that was kind of it. But low-key, it's still fun to watch. It's good entertainment, although I will say, having rewatched some of these episodes, I don't know if it aged the best, but still, I'm gonna talk about it because 10-year-old me thought that this was the shit, okay? This show follows Tara, who is a spellbinder, basically a witch or a mage, as she learns more about her powers and also works together with her friends, Cal and Sparrow, to eliminate threats that come from the other world, this other dimension where all these like supernatural creatures reside. Like you have like vampires, werewolves, harpies, and so on and so forth. Each episode is based on like another threat that the team has to defeat. I would say it's one of those shows that doesn't really have the biggest lasting impact on me because it doesn't really have a plot. It's just a different adventure each episode, even though some of them are quite cool. Why I personally liked it as a kid is probably because it's fantasy and it's for slightly older kids, which I like, but it's also like slightly cunty. Like it has a cunt factor in it. The magic and how it looks, and also certain outfits, it's very, very fun. I also love the environments, like the town, gorgeous. I love the slight addition of CG to accentuate certain expressions of the characters as well. That's such a cool little trick. Also, another killer song. Like, why do they always have to slap this hard? One negative thing I would say about this show is that it throws you into this world without ever explaining it. Like every backstory, lore explanation, description is just not there. This show never explains anything, and when it attempts to, it's so like laconic, barely there, blink and you'll miss it type of thing. For example, we never learn what the other world really is, and more than that, we never actually see it. We don't understand the lore of our characters for the most part. How, like, I don't know, they found out they have powers. Why are they working with a dragon? Or like, where do these supernatural criminals go when we send them to the other world? Like, and those are just a few questions I had like at the top of my head when I was rewatching some of these episodes. And trust, there is plenty more. I think it stems from the fact that this show was based on the book. So the writers must have assumed that the main audience of the show would have read the book and would like understand what is going on. But I didn't read the book, so I don't know. I didn't know that this show was based on a book. I didn't know that as a kid. I didn't even know it now. I literally just found out about it like 2 days ago because I was researching for this video and trying to learn more about the show. And I was like, what do you mean this is based on a book series? Low-key, I might read it. I might buy the first book. I don't know. I need to read some opinions, see if it's like worth my money or whether people like actually like that or not. But even when I didn't know the books as a kid, I still really, really enjoyed the show. It's fun. And also, I just found out that there is a different Tara Duncan show that came out in 2022. And it looks like this. And we know how I feel about these types of shows, don't we? It's kind of giving the Wings reboot if they actually like took slightly more time into like shaping their characters. That's why this one is the better show, because it just looks better. I haven't seen the other one. I might at some point. I don't know. I don't really think I will though. I don't think I want to. So yeah, to summarize, this is a fun show to watch. It's not incredible, but it also has like some fantasy to it, some semblance of a surf, and I enjoy that. And also it has a gay-coded werewolf, so do with that what you will. Sorry, Fabrice is apparently not gay from the little research I did, but it would make sense. Like if you watch the episode where he gets introduced, the way he gets introduced and like what they tell us about him, I'm just saying that that's just like my little headcanon for him. Clearly, this show must have had fans because the books exist and there's a lot of them. And there was a whole remake, but I had no idea about that. If you want a video deep diving the world of Tara Duncan though, what do we do if we want the video? We go into the comment section and say that, yay, thank you. Thank you in advance. Oh my God, that's so... I apologize for being so annoying this video. This next show though, this one, I know most of you, or actually all of you, I'm willing to bet my money that anyone who watches this video is not gonna recognize this show because, first of all, yes, it's perfect. It's so good, but I also didn't remember about it until I was like making this video. I was thinking about like some shows, and I had to literally Google like old like schedules for Teleton Plus and be like, wait, what was this? Because I remember that name, and then I watched some episodes of it and was like, okay, I've rediscovered Peak. I fucking love this show. It's like if Pokemon, Bakugan, Avatar, and Wings had a kid together. I don't know how that would work, but just imagine that. It's so good. It's like the exact adventure, magic, animated show that I just like love. The premise of it is basically that there's another dimension. Again, that's kind of popular in this video, I guess. It's known as the Kaiju realm, and it's divided into 5 civilizations. It's fire, nature, water, dark, and light. That dimension is separated from ours by this special veil because there was a war long time ago between the creatures and the humans, so we don't want to, do that again. That veil is protected by the so-called duel masters who can summon these creatures and duel with them. Sort of Pokemon-like, but there are, of course, the people who want to destroy the veil. Our heroes, Ray, Allison, and Gabe, are newbies to this world, and they navigate through it, learn its rules, and, do heroic stuff along the way. I really enjoyed rewatching this show. The writing in it is surprisingly really, really good. The villain is really good as well. He's like a genuine threat. His name is the Choten, and he has some like Walter-esque traits to him, which I really enjoy. I love a master manipulator. I love all these characters, especially Ali. She is so much fun to watch. And also Master Jahar. She has the vibe of like a great grandma that would like make you tea when you come out to her or something like that. Or like would teach you how to knit. Oh, I really love Master Jahar. All these characters are really like incredibly charming. This show also has some like impeccable comic timing. I was hee-hee-ha-ha-ing the whole time when I was rewatching this show. Especially with Allison. Allison is like the kind of the comic relief character of the bunch, and she pulls it off so well.
That better have just been water.
There are very few characters I don't like for example, Fingers. Because like, what the hell is that name even? I mean, I know why. It's just a weird name. And also Mr. Brightmore. He has the vibe of like a Trump supporter.
Real women vote for Trump!
Sorry, I know, triggering. I'm sorry. But still, I love the design of the creatures for the most part. I like that they're not afraid to make some of them like extremely disgusting and horrifying. There's so much variety to their designs, and I love that. Like every single one is so unique. Every civilization also has its own like traits that kind of get developed as we see more creatures from these specific civilizations, and I love that. I think the elemental nature of this like magical world really works well. It's a tried out theme, but I like it here, and I think the show expands on it very well. Each of these civilizations gets characterized really, really well. My personal favorite would probably be the Dark civilization. It's just really cunty, and in my opinion, it's the most intriguing. There's just so much to it. Just to say, I actually really like the world building here. I also do really like the different like politics between the different civilizations, and I think that they're quite interesting, even though I don't think they really get too complex with it. But what I do like is that they're prominent in the show. Certain civilizations are gonna hate each other, but then you have like full-on wars between them. There are treaties, alliances, betrayals. There are also attempts at a conquest, if I remember correctly. Like, it's a lot. I genuinely find it difficult to like say anything negative about this show. It still holds up today. And listen, it might sound a bit cringe, but I promise you it's anything but that. It's just like really fun. The world is complex and pretty much complete. The characters are so much fun to watch. The writing is good. The dialogue feels so natural, never forced. The animation looks really, really good. The ending of season 2 felt rushed. I wish they had another season. Maybe, to let some of the plot lines of season 2 really, really marinate and like develop over time and not end them all at once. But hey, that's, I guess, how the cookie crumbled for it, because this show, again, has 2 seasons. I think it has like 52 episodes as well. Although that I didn't check that, so that might be a lie. Don't quote me on that. The only thing I'm like about this is the intro, because as we previously discussed, that is very important to me. But yeah, with that, my little list of shows that I remember really loving as a kid is done, and we can move on to the honorable mention section. So just to shout out a few different shows that I didn't talk about, I would say Dragon Hunters. This one I specifically remember for its animation and just in general the style of it. I really loved it. Also, the world was so cool. Gourmety, the character design in it is just so peak. And I also remember really, really loving it. I remember, I actually think as a kid, I had like action figures of Gourmety because I loved it so much. There's of course Witch. I remember finding out about Witch through the comics specifically, but I did watch the show. It was really, really good. I really liked it. Then I'm gonna go to Martin Mystery. I think this show always kind of creeped me out because it was like gross and slimy. That was kind of the aesthetic of it, but still, it was really, really engaging and really fun to watch. Whilst we talk about Martin Mystery, I think Totally Spies has to be shouted out. I mean, of course it does. I think they're actually in the same like universe, and actually I think there was a crossover episode between Martin Mystery and Totally Spies, which is very cool. Gravity Falls obviously is iconic, one of the best shows I think ever. I recently rewatched it and I was just so like blown away. I think Adventure Time is another one that I really, really, really loved, even though sometimes I don't think I would like understand it the most, but like going back now, it's aged phenomenally. I also think the same thing applies to Avatar Legend of Korra. I know I talked about The Last Airbender, but I also do really like Korra. Some people seem to really hate it. I've never been one of those people. I love The Legend of Korra. I'm gonna shout out Magic School Bus. This is kind of for like younger kids, but I still remember really loving this as a child. And I mean, my sister also likes it now. This also, I believe, did receive a remake, which is not that good. The old version, though, is just so good. I'm gonna shout out DuckTales. I think this was kind of like really good when it came to like combining my love for the comics, because I had a lot of these comics of specifically, you know, from like the Donald Duck universe. I don't really know what the universe is called, but I remember really, really loving this show. It also has an incredible intro song. I'm also gonna shout out Ninjago. Obviously, this was kind of iconic, and I think it's still running, which is kind of crazy. But the first like 3 seasons of it, I remember I was able to like recite some of these episodes like word for word. Then the next one is Dragons, which I did not know that this was the name for it in English. I always thought it was like Dragon Riders or like something like that. Basically the How to Train Your Dragon show. That one, I really liked it, even though again, this one had a bit like wonky animation in places, but for the most part it was really good. And then the last one I'm gonna shout out, I'm gonna go for Star Wars, The Clone Wars. I remember liking that one a lot. And also Ahsoka is like one of my favorite characters ever. I love her. That's mother right there. But if there's any good show that I might have not mentioned, I might have forgotten, definitely let me know in the comments below. Because now we're moving on to the, I think, second to last section of this video. I want to talk about a few shows that have come out pretty recently or have, you know, or are still airing actually, that I think are really, really good. And hell, if you have kids, or if you know some kids, you might want to like introduce them to this because it's really fun.
Adora, I need to blow something up.
Of course, I think it's a no-brainer. We have to start this section with She-Ra.
We must be strong.
This is probably one of my favorite newer animated shows. It's this epic journey through the highs and lows of friendships whilst our heroes try and protect Etheria from the conquest of the Horde. On the surface, it might look like a generic princess show for little girls, but it's really not. This show has some of the best storytelling I've ever seen. Over the 5 seasons, I was so attached to all of these characters. I genuinely don't think that there's one character in the show that was like poorly done. And when it comes to their development through the series, it's so well done. It's like actually mastery. It might present itself as like this cutesy, colorful princess show, but let me tell you, this shit is serious. Like behind all the fantastic character designs and incredibly beautiful environments, there's so much hidden depth and insane concepts, like the themes of trauma, love, betrayal, but also you have like the politics of this world, which make this show so special. It's one of those that you can't just like look away. This is not something you put on in the background while you do something. This is something that just consumes your entire soul and becomes your personality for months. That's how good it is. She-Ra is visually stunning. It has an incredible story, and it's, I would say, one of the best casts of characters I've ever seen. It's a completed, fully realized story that everybody should experience at least once. And also, it's very gay, which we love. The real problem with She-Ra is not how it ended or anything about the show itself. It's more so where to even watch it, because this is a Netflix original that got removed from Netflix.
Are you trying to get a rise out of me? Are you happy now? Is this what you want?
I'm sorry, explain it to me like I'm 5. Why? How does that even happen? Also, this is by far one of the best animated shows for kids that Netflix has ever, like, in their, like, catalog. This is the best thing they could have potentially offered, and it's gone now. Not to put the tinfoil hat on, but I do feel like the queer element of it might have had something to do with it, but that's just me. But thankfully, She-Ra is not the only kids show on Netflix to contain that element. It does it incredibly well, but dare I say the Dragon Prince also eats in that department. Earlier in this video, I asked the question of where is this generation's Avatar, The Last Airbender? Well, this show doesn't answer that question fully, but I would say it does come close to that because it's from the actual creator of the Avatar. It's as close as we can get, I guess. The Dragon Prince is a fabulous show set in a land named Zodia, divided by two. There's this land of humans and there's the land of elves and other magical creatures. They've been divided and at war with each other for years, and the conflict only escalated after the Dragon King has been slayed by humans and his only egg was destroyed. That would, of course, be the Dragon Prince. But was it? Well, to spoil it, I guess, no. The show follows Callum and Ezra, princes of one of the human kingdoms and also half-brothers, as they make their way to Zadia. They travel alongside a moonshadow elf named Rayla to return the egg to its rightful owner, the Dragon Queen. This show is really good. It makes small mistakes here and there, but overall, I really like it. Most of the seasons are almost perfect to me. It has gorgeous style and the animation is really good too, although season 1 is a bit rocky in places when it comes to that. Character designs are so good, and dare I say they only get even better after a certain redesign happens in season 4. The show is full of magic and adventures, but also isn't afraid to delve deeper into the politics of, for example, the human kingdoms or different kinds of elves. The world building is very strong and it only gets stronger as you go along when new elements get introduced. The characters and the arcs they get, for the most part, are so good. There are a few that I dislike, specifically Claudia. I don't like what they do with her, but yeah, she's like one of the few cases of that, really. This show is extremely heartwarming and then heartbreaking at the same time. The humor of it, I would say, is very approachable, especially for younger audiences. It feels more palatable for them, but the show is still so enjoyable regardless of what age you are. I watched the entire thing, and the only season I didn't really vibe with was season 4, but other than that, I do think that seasons 1 through 3 are like this close to perfection, and the later seasons are also pretty good. It's a very enjoyable series that I would recommend if you're looking for something longer to, you know, sink your teeth into. It's a quality fantasy show with some incredible characters. I know seasons 4 through 6 are less popular because, you know, I wouldn't say they're as good as the first 3 seasons, but they will always have a special place in my heart, specifically for the introduction of Terry. Terry, that is my king. I salute to Terry. Terry is one of the best characters in this show, and I will die on that hill. And also, there's a lot of gay people here. We have lesbians, we have gay people, we have trans characters. I mean, Terry. It's cool to see representation that doesn't feel forced. It feels so organic. Like, it makes sense every time. Certain shows should take notes. The Dragon Prince has 6 seasons that are divided into 2 arcs, and right now we are still, I believe, waiting for the confirmation of arc 3, which I don't know if it's gonna happen. It's not been confirmed for a while now, so I don't know if it's happening. But still, the 6 seasons that we have are a pretty much complete story, yeah. And I would definitely recommend watching them. This next one is kind of a technicality because I remember this one from back when I was like 12 when it started airing, but it's been running ever since, and apparently it has reached a new audience that's big enough to basically warrant a complete upgrade in animation and design for the newest season of this show. And that is, of course, Miraculous. Miraculous is a weird example to include because, yeah, I do remember it from my childhood, but it's still running to the point that like younger kids now also recognize it. For example, my sister. I think if you're watching this video, you know what the show is. We all have heard of it. We all have seen memes from it. It follows 2 teenagers in Paris who receive magical pieces of jewelry that help them turn into superheroes and protect the people of Paris. The thing about this show is I stopped watching around, I think it was season 3, and that's because it just got too formulaic and I got bored. Season 1 and season 2 are practically structured the same way. Each episode plays out the same. Season 3 has more variation with the introduction of new Miraculum holders, so on and so forth, but it wasn't enough to like keep me engaged. I've talked before about like shows that have episode-based plot as ones that I can enjoy if the lore and the world is engaging enough. And this one, I wouldn't say it is. I don't think I ever made it to the part of Miraculous that I would consider to be like that interesting, because it's the same thing every episode. I don't want to trash Miraculous though, because apparently it did get better, especially now with season 6 airing. I haven't watched it. I have seen clips of it though, and the new animation and design of the characters, it's just so gorgeous. Apparently some people didn't like it, but girl, like, let's be honest, this is top compared to this. At the time, this was great. It's not anymore. I honestly might watch season 6 or like season 4 or 5. I don't know if I will, but hey, listen, if you like a more nuanced look into Miraculous, I'm down for that. I think revisiting this franchise and finally learning more about the lore of it, because I do think it, for the most part, it got like explained, it got developed. Yeah, that sounds like a fun idea, honestly. This one I haven't watched in a while, but I think it's still a good show. It's good entertainment. Some of the older episodes are classics. And even if their animation doesn't look as good as the newer season, they are still very, very well done. This is one that I'm very much up for revisiting. And hey, if you're watching this and you want that, you know what to do. The fourth and last position in this specific section of the video, this one, you guys might be a little angry with me because I actually haven't seen this show. I'm mentioning this mostly because I know that a lot of people love this, and I'm honestly down to like explore it. That is The Owl House. I do feel like if I don't mention The Owl House in this video, I will get crucified, I will get stoned if this video even has viewers, but I have not seen it. I really have not seen it. I don't know if it's always been in the back of my mind to like watch it, but I just never did for some reason. And I kind of feel stupid now saying that. However, I have heard great things about it, both when it comes to like the story of it, the animation, also the characters, as well as representation. This one I'm shouting out because I know it's popular, but I genuinely think I might give it a shot and just like watch it. I think it might be fun to just like go see it, see for myself what the hubbub is about. And with that, the short list of shows that I could think for this section is done. There's not many of them, but I do think these ones are pretty good for the most part. If you have any that you would want to recommend, definitely do that in the comments below though. But still, all of these shows clearly have problems because She-Ra is basically lost media now because Netflix was like, bye. Then you have The Owl House, which from what I understand, it got cancelled. The Dragon Prince is still waiting for a renewal for its new arc. And out of these 4, Miraculous is the only one that's like actually still running, which is kind of crazy because like I remember when this started. The fact that this had this much longevity is kind of insane to me. The state of kids shows now is dire, and the best ones are getting cancelled. They're not getting renewed. They're getting deleted from the internet, from the streaming services, and instead some dumb shit prevails. But listen, let me collect my thoughts a little bit for the outro of this video because I don't want to leave you on like a depressing note, really.
Trauma, PTSD, trauma, generational trauma.
The amount of shows that I name dropped shows just how much we had back then. And this list, dare I say, is 90% incomplete. There's so much good stuff that came out around that time for us to enjoy and obsess over, even as adults. But there are a few that I was able to name that came out pretty recently. And that's not for the lack of trying. I really am like trying to stay engaged and like search for like good stuff, whether it's for kids or not, because listen, entertainment is entertainment and good stories can be told regardless of what age group you're targeting. That number has decreased dramatically. The quality is getting worse and companies are starting to rely too much on remakes. The commitment to telling new stories that have the power to shape entire childhoods is dying, and that's just because their main audience is turning away towards other stuff. I find it kind of sad that my generation gets to be like nostalgic towards cartoons like these that I mentioned. Meanwhile, Gen Alpha might look with nostalgia at shit like this. We truly didn't realize how good we had it back then. I think that's why the nostalgia to shows from my childhood grows for me specifically. I appreciate them more now knowing where things are heading. I don't know if this trend is gonna turn at any point and if we're gonna be back in the cartoon renaissance. I'd really hope for that, but until then, I think relishing in the colorful past of cartoons from the 2010s or older is a fun thing to do. There's so much fun entertainment out there targeted at kids but enjoyable for all ages. And that's the main thing I like for people to take away from this video. Yes, I'm shitting on the new stuff that's coming out. I think the quality of it is poor. It's not giving the kids much to work with. But there's nothing stopping us from showing kids stuff that's older that we enjoyed as kids. That's what my parents kind of did with me and my siblings. And that's also something that I'm now doing with my sister. It's not going to be the same for them, obviously, but every kid deserves to have a chance at enjoying some good stories regardless of when they were made. And with that, I do want to end this video. I had so much fun making this. My voice somehow survived till the end, which is good. I also just really enjoy talking about these shows. Again, if you want to see like full videos about them, do not hesitate on telling me in the comments below. I really don't need much encouragement, like one comment and I'll do it probably. I would love for it to be like a monthly series where like each month, let's say that we like revisit one cartoon that might have been forgotten or not and just like talk about it. I think that'd be very fun to do, like a series like that. But anyway, please let me know your thoughts about the video, about the state of kids shows now, and also compared to how it used to look like. Please leave a like, a hype, a comment, subscribe to the channel, follow me on all my other social media, all the YouTube stuff that I'm supposed to say. And I'll see you next week for another very exciting video. This one is going to be way more serious though, because we're going to be talking about some authoritarian regimes and some politics, specifically in a reference to a certain book series that you might see somewhere behind me right now. But yeah, if you have no idea what I'm talking about, you have to wait till next week. And I'll see you then. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for sticking around till the end if you did. And yeah, I wish you all the best and I'll see you next week.